Nobody wins in the family feuds, you dig? What's going on, folks? It's D White, founder of JustBlackThoughts.com, and I'm just one black male educator giving you my thoughts. Today, I want to talk to you about leadership and what that looks like as a black man in educational spaces. I don't speak for all black men, I speak for just myself. One of the things I've learned in my short time being a leader for my sophomore level, English level, you have to exercise a lot of patience, obviously, but just big picture thinking and being able to know your players, know your roster, know the people, your collaborators, your thought partners, your colleagues. And then when I say knowing them, it means knowing their strengths, knowing them on a social, somewhat emotional level, as well as a professional level, because all those dynamics come into play when you're in meetings. And it's not to say that you have to play psychologist or psychiatrist or be people watching, but you just want to try to be really socially as well as self aware and being present with people in the meetings and then also outside of those meetings. Um, I would say being able to read the room is a skill I've picked up over the years, and reading the room in terms of just the climate, politically, emotionally, socially. And that means sometimes knowing what time of the year we're in and knowing the context for these meetings, right? If you know your colleagues have had a hard time due to all the schedule changes, or knowing that certain big events are coming up that are changing their schedule and how they're lesson planning, just being mindful of that as a leader and making sure you take the time just to check in with people. I think one of the things that has made me feel comfortable in this role is just being able to go check in and build rapport and have that rapport, as well as just earning the respect of your colleagues in order to be called leader. And when I say leader, I don't necessarily mean the boss. I mean being able to create a space where people can feel like there's a shared responsibility of decision making, and also just trying to figure out what's best for the kids. And with that, we just have to share, and I have to facilitate as the leader. I don't say that as someone who is self confident. I say it as someone who is trying to step into this role and walk into this role, knowing how much respect I have for my colleagues, knowing how much I have so much to learn about the profession, but also respecting myself and knowing that I do have the potential, I do have the ability. So, if anything, I'm telling you, black men out there, don't be afraid of leadership roles, but also don't get lost in the ego, don't get lost in the titles. You are a person who just sees the big picture. You're a person trying to put the pieces together in these roles. And so, as a leader, again, I only have a small purview of it, but I will say that knowing how to read the room, knowing the climate, being aware socially, self-aware, being aware of the full context, and being able to zoom out um, and zoom in and having the ability to go back and forth. And again, just like with the students, how do you create a space where people can collaborate? How do you create a space where people can share? What do you do when there's tension in the room? What do you do when people are being vulnerable? What do you do when people are just frustrated, they're tired? What do you do when there's structural breakdowns? What do you do when there's communication breakdowns? How do you as leader hold yourself accountable, hold others accountable, but also creating a safe space for people to share? So, answer to those questions again: know your players, respect your players, exercise a great deal of humility, and open your mouth and ask questions. Continue to ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more clarity you'll find, the more um, answers you'll find in your leadership role. Just making sure you check in with people, make sure you check in with yourself. And again, it's all a process of you becoming the best educator and the best person for your young people. So, with that said, you know, rely on your teammates, be interdependent, and know that you do have the potential, you do have the skills to be a great leader, and assume that role. Just don't get lost in the titles. All right. I'm grateful to be around some really dope women of color who've kind of helped me understand that it's different. It's different. I'm a man, and there are women of color in these leadership roles. It's tough because it's a different emotional investment and dynamic in the way that their body language is perceived and the way that they carry themselves. So it's a whole nother level of complexity. And let me say this last part, if I'm being really honest. If you are one of few people of color in a leadership role, just know, and I get it, not everybody agrees. We're not a monolith, of course, but I would hope in my naivete that we could coordinate and communicate amongst ourselves and not tear each other down, because a step back for one of us is a step back for all of us. And I know that a lot of us have to work 3 times as hard to get a quarter of the recognition. And so that's why I think it's imperative that we communicate, continue to coordinate, continue to share, continue to appreciate one another, because these systems will not. I never want to look at a fellow black man education and see him as the enemy. Nobody wins in the family feuds, you dig? And I'll take that from Jay-Z. So if anything, if you see another person that looks like you, reach out to them, check in with them, because we got. We got to support one another. We got to help one another. And yeah. Hey, it's D White, founder of JustBlackThoughts.com. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow me at The Other English Teacher on Instagram and YouTube. Peace. Darius White. I'm here as a Fulbright teacher for the Fulbright Teacher Exchange. Here's my poster. I was introducing my sophomores to global citizenship, and we're reading Purple